wreck yourself, regression and software testing. And now I thought there was going to be some intro music to this with the title. Apparently there's not. I'm going to hand you over in just a second to our presenters. Just a reminder, you should know by now, if you've got any Q&A, please put them in the app, and any of those of you are virtual, make sure you have your Q&A questions put in the app on the software, and we'll get to those at the end. So before we start, I'm going to hand straight over to our presenters for this awesome session. Thank you very much.
I wanted to go.
Good afternoon, Mac admins. I am Ramik Robinson, one of the QA engineers for the Mac at IBM program. Welcome to our session, Check Yourself Before You Wreck Yourself, Regression in Software Testing. This session includes different scenarios for testing software updates, including crowdsourced testing, leveraging the Jamf Pro beta environment, and testing in production. There are two QA engineers for the Mac at IBM program, myself and Peter.
Hi there.
Before I hand over to my colleague, I have some questions I want you to think about. How do you perform testing in your environment? Are you testing at all? And would you say you're brave enough to go directly to production? Peter will now give you some information about our processes at IBM.
Thanks, Ramik. Hello, everyone. My name is Peter Shifalovic, and I will tell you something about how we do things in IBM. A lot of how we make things work is about how we work. We are a small agile development team. We listen to feedback from every direction. We work in iterative releases, improving the features and the processes we have in place. We organize work in 2-week sprints. All work and changes are documented in our agile tools, of course, Jira or any additional wikis we have. We are a self-driven team where the responsibility is shared between the team members, and we are also sharing the knowledge and the skills among the team members. All agreements we do as a team are documented for a later review and for additional iteration. Also, it's available for the new team members who are joining our team, or the knowledge is not lost when somebody leaves our team. Regarding the standardizing processes, all team agreements and everything what we have documented for the later review and for the reference. We are, of course, following ITIL standards and some software industry standards for the software lifecycle and software deployment standards. Once we agree with our team, as I said, we document and have it commonly accepted with every team member. Regarding the QA work, we are also doing a test case creation documentation where we are documenting desired outcomes from the testing, and we are creating a base according which then we are executing our work. We are trying to keep things simple, and we are, or in your organization, try to use any tools that are available to you and keep things really, really simple. We are also documenting known issues, bugs, or unexpected outcomes for future, because you easily forget what you've seen when you've been doing some work before. The last part is execution, which is the hard work, where you are running the test on the bare metal. And then, of course, you are taking evidence what happened during the testing. As an example of our agreement, you may see here the workflow. We were agreeing together as a team after many iterations, and we set up following process. As the first part is the research and build stage, where our engineers are developing solution and trying to find the right solution for our environments based on the requirements. When they are done with their work, they are moving ticket or item to us as QA engineers, and we are processing the test case creation based on the features and the requirements in the ticket. After we have documented what we want and what we should be expecting from the tests, we are doing the QA execution itself, which may lead in two directions, right? It may fail because it will not be working as it's expected. In that case, we are sending the item back to the engineer with the feedback so they can work it out and fix the issue. In case it will pass and everything is successful and succeed, we are sending our work item to our lead engineering, and they are again doing with another set of the eyes review of the task, what was done, and the evidence what we make for the testing. And after they approve, it may go directly to the production deployment, or we may take a longer path where we have the UAT phase. In this phase, we are also allowing tests for our product owners or application owners or anybody, any stakeholder who requested a specific feature or request to test it itself, and after they are okay with it, they are feedbacking it to us, and we are moving it to the production. Additional example. Additional example, as you may see on the picture, is organization of the work in the QA team. For example, you may see here that we are using simple tool for us, which was Trello back in the day. We were doing the regression testing of the new Jamf beta release, where we organized and put all of the working items in the swim lanes based on the stage where it is. We were categorizing the specific items based on the functionality. So for example, we had self-service, we had infrastructure, we had our enrollment workflow or API functionality. Said that, Rahmik will now guide you through some software testing deep insights. There you go.
As Peter stated prior, how we function at IBM greatly influences the way we accomplish tasks and achieve results. The Mac at IBM program is based on agile practices. As a result, we greatly consider our users' feedback and consistently roll out improved features, updated workflows with our monthly deliverables. Any changes that are made, we document in our agile project management tool, Jira. For the Mac at IBM program, QR goes way far beyond is the workflow or software working as expected. We value our client's experience, and we live by our development cycle with everything that we do. Our development cycle starts with performing tests. We check for weird outputs, issues with the user interface, and overall performance of the workflow or application. We know users do not like to see 0 and 1s or the wrong system pane opening at the wrong time, which is why the first phase is very important. From the many tests that we perform, we can now identify bugs, which is the next phase in our test development cycle. All scripts for our applications and workflows in our instance are checked for errors and for incorrect outputs. Like most developers, our outputs are simple. 0 for successful and any other number for non-successful outputs. We check for failed commands. If there are any failed commands found, we report them to Jamf, just in case the issue isn't just an IBM issue. Next, we create test cases. Test cases should explain the result. At IBM, we like to think of test cases as a storyteller. Our test cases explain each step we execute, what the outcome is, and what the outcome should be. If the outcome matches what the expected outcome is, we pass the test and send it off for deployment approval. To keep our developers updated, we provide feedback. As a part of this testing phase, we help our developers resolve issues or enhance the process through automation. Automation can consist of suggesting scripts or scripts modifications that simplify the process for our users. To accomplish this, we utilize static or computer smart groups. These features allow us to add test users to a specific group for testing before releasing to production. To continue our automation journey, we added automation testing for some of the applications in that we make available for our users. For example, while testing IBM Notifier, we can test multiple functions just by the click of a button. As you can see in the slide behind me, there are multiple options you can choose under Choose Your Faith. Each option leads to a script that would run automatically to perform a test. As I stated prior, testing the GUI is a very important step to make sure our users are getting the best experience. I cannot stress how much interface testing matters. For example, while testing on Spotlight, I noticed our custom branding didn't match. Before I can get this issue over to Jamf, I had to gather evidence. I replicated the issue on different operating systems. Then I provided our findings to our Jamf Customer Success Manager with videos and screenshots of the issue that existed. From there, we was able to work with Jamf to resolve the issue. And one thing I want to let you guys know, in QA, evidence is key. The following slide shows 2 failed commands that occurred after enrolling a device in the current Apple beta. As a QA engineer, my role is to compare the current logs versus the previous logs to identify where the issue may exist. After this issue was identified, I sent all the relevant information to Jamf. From there, I worked on a solution for an issue that may not just exist with IBM, but exist in the Mac community. Here's an example of a test case. The test case is testing the Google Chrome update policy that we will soon release to our users, which are IBMers. Every test case must have steps to execute, expected results, and what the actual results are. To effectively test the new policy, we spoofed the application version by modifying the plist file. After we execute the update policy in self-service, once it appears. Once we are sure that the application is behaving as expected, we document our findings and we send the policy off for development approval. To give you some more details on how we interact with our developers, we use Jira from start to finish. If we find issues with the case, we document the issue in the comments in Jira. For example, on the slide behind me, there was an issue with self-service after we changed our enrollment workflow. The QA engineer documented the issue, and the developer provided feedback with the changes they made to resolve the issue. The QA engineer would then rerun the test for the enrollment workflow, and if the test is working as expected, we pass the case before it can go to development. Peter, you have the...
Thank you, Rahmik. Additional part of the QA work is not only software, but you need to be sure that you have also hardware tested before you deploy. It's nice to have a good practice that you have always new hardware available by Apple release, and you have it as soon as possible. But as we know, it's not so easy in many organizations, so having such a difficult task as securing the loot, right? You should have really some procurement or financial plans about the refresh strategy on your hardware inventory, so you can prepare yourself in advance for the new hardware coming into your organization. And if you don't have cooperation with your finance or procurement teams or IT management in your organization, it's the right time to thinking about some good strategy, how to have agreement with them for the future to avoid unplanned surprises. Part of the hardware testing is device unit testing itself, where you are basically validating the unboxing experience, making sure that you have the same experience as you designed for older hardware models you had in your organization when you were setting up your base with Jamf. Assure that the new hardware, what you are bringing, is compatible with all existing workflows like policies, packages, configuration profiles, basically everything and the whole setup what you have for your organization. It's also important to test the new hardware features coming with the new machines. If you imagine like it was coming with the new touch bar models or with the new Touch ID generation 2, it's really good to have tested also these kind of features. Speaking of hardware testing, do you remember when this dropped? It was life-changing announcement. I would say it was paradigm shift. How did you prepare for it in your organization? Do you remember? Well, I will tell you a bit about experience during our QA testing with the new hardware models. There was no introduction from Apple that you can now do the DFU restore on the device. And it's making your life as a QA engineer very, very easy and simple. In the times of Intel, you had to create the USB installer, you had to or download the image from the internet, which was taking ages, or sometimes Apple servers were not available. And now with DFU restores, you have really device ready to test again within 15 minutes, and you are ready to go. Additional thing coming with Silicon announcement from Apple was Rosetta 2, right? Suddenly, our perfect tuned enrollment workflow, what we had in our environment, was starting to fail and break down things. We had to install Rosetta 2 as the first thing now in the enrollment process and split specific policies we had to different policies based on the architecture type. We are using custom trigger in our enrollment workflows to install Rosetta in advance of any additional steps in the enrollment process. We have also multiple workflows that are validating if Rosetta is enabled and if it was not removed. We are doing daily checkups or weekly checkups for this installment process. Also now with Silicon, we have more applications to test, even though you are testing the same application deployed to the device, because now we have options for Intel, we have universal application, or we have native application for Silicon devices. So having this basically is bringing us a bit more of work, and we need to ensure that we have all applications working properly for all architecture types we have in our environment. Speaking of Silicon and M1 chips or M2 chips or M3 chips, which will be coming soon maybe, they are really fast and they are processing and executing our enrollment flows or policies much faster than it was on Intel. Said that, we started to see also that our flows or policies or scripts started to fail because they were processed so fast that we were not expecting the steps queue, and basically some items were skipped, or they were created so quickly that we had to add some timings in our scripts, or we had to change the sequence of the items executed on the Silicon devices. Also, the Kext was the life changer on Silicon devices, where Apple Silicon introduction meant for environment of macOS that now we are not able to use kernel extensions because of security and because of architecture. So now we had to deploy system extensions for Silicon devices. And now, again, we have two policies based on the architecture type deployed to specific architecture model, which needs to be tested in advance. All of these small items are the real-life experiences which can potentially happen again with the new Apple releases when they will be releasing the new hardware models. And your organization or every organization should be really prepared for it to test it out in advance. Now, Rahim will tell you something more about engagement in the testing in our organization.
At IBM, testing happens in 3 parts: identifying interests, scoping to select testers, and receiving feedback. But the biggest question is, how do we engage our users, and does their input count? To engage our users, we give them access to the Apple beta program and other beta softwares. We also created a Slack channel that anyone from IBM can join. You do not have to have a Mac to join. Just be curious. As we grew as a program, our channel count grew also. We have over 300 users who participate in our channel daily. Our simple Slack channel turned into a Mac community for all IBMers around the globe. We consistently monitor our channel and notify users when we are releasing softwares that they can test. Not only do we provide our users with a Slack channel for engagement, but they have access to an internal Mac at IBM website where they can leave comments. We also send Mac users quarterly surveys. This way we can find out if they are satisfied with our program or not. Behind me is an example of an engineer reaching out to our community, notifying them that a new policy will soon be released. All users are part of that group that is displayed above, which is the UAT group, can test this policy. And they can give us feedback right in the Slack channel. I spoke a lot about the user feedback, but many of you may be asking, where does it come into play? If a user identifies an enhancement that makes our user experience better, we create a ticket with Jamf to improve our user experience. On the slide behind me, you will see a ticket that we created in Jira based off of multiple users' feedback. Our users wanted to rate content in self-service, which goes with our idea that we want self-service to give our users a similar experience to the Apple App Store. This may be an ongoing request for enhancement, but it shows that our employees' experience matters. Can you imagine the joy of a user when they open their Mac and they see the changes that they always wanted? It is what you make it. The environment that we created at IBM invites our employees to work with us and not against us. And always remember, not tested, not done. Thank you for listening.
Awesome, that was a great session. We had 120 people online as well watching as well, so we got to a high of 120. Keep your questions coming in because we've still got a bit of time. The top one here voted so far is, when you put your results in Jira, what ticket is it being added to? Do you have testing tickets or does it land on an engineering development ticket?
So we do have testing tickets, but our testing tickets are transferred to our developers. So we have a team lead. And our team lead, he is the one who approves those test cases after we pass them.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I'm trying not to fall off the stage here as well at the same time while holding an iPad and answering questions. Another one that's come in, with test creation happening after build time, how long do you provide for test case creation? What does that process look like, and who is consulted, and who is in charge of it?
So basically, we are doing the test creation as fast as possible. So basically, ad hoc when the new item is arriving. As we said, we are working in agile environment and working in 2 sprints, but we are still having open sprint. So because we are requesting also many times requests on the fly from the security teams, for example. And when we are creating the tickets, it's immediate. And what was the question? Can you repeat?
Who's in charge of it when you?
Yeah, both of us, like QA engineers. And speaking of the requirements or the test case creation, we are communicating with our engineers and any stakeholders, so we are confirming proper test creation based on the features and the requirements coming in as a request.
Thank you. You mentioned user feedback is important. How can you get input from our How can we get input from our end users for features that are not working as expected for them? For example, when user system preferences are not accessible.
So, in the quarterly feedback that we send out IBMers, they do have the option to leave comments. Within those comments, we do review them, and from those comments, we create a ticket with Jamf, and those tickets are with our vendor, which is our CSM. And we work with our CSM directly to resolve those issues. So users, I could put it as users would never go, users will always be, users can always feel like they're being heard at IBM.
Also, we mentioned that we have the Slack channels where we are monitoring. So if somebody is complaining and we are seeing that the thread is piling up, we are acting directly with the users, so we can fix it immediately. And many times we were deploying immediate fixes.
So they're slacking you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We are monitoring the channels, and if we are seeing something is raising up, then we are acting immediately on some critical items.
You would be surprised how many Slack messages we receive from users outside of the channel.
Direct message. Focus mode on.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Do you use any macOS? Hang on, they're all flying in now, getting upvoted. We're fairly good with major update testing, but patch testing is more like run the update and hope like crazy nothing breaks due to InfoSec wanting patching right away. How can we make people aware of the value of regression testing?
We are involved in Appleseed, so we are always testing in advance any updates or any upcoming new OSs. So we should know in advance. Sometimes Apple is releasing their security updates uncontrolled, and then we have also surprises in our production. But as we mentioned that we are monitoring the channels, we are acting quickly on such surprises from Apple. So.
Yeah.
As product marketing for security here at Jamf, I'm fully aware of all of those updates.
But we are always having 0-day availability, so.
No.
Perfect. Loads of questions coming in, so keep them coming. Keeping in mind that there are 3 macOS versions supported at a particular time of the year, do you perform regression testing for every macOS security updates? And if yes, how big is your team?
So, I wouldn't say that every update can get tested. Sometimes, like Peter stated, Apple do release updates on the fly. So then those updates, users just update directly in production. But usually what we do, we test with the betas, and from there, we can figure out if an issue exists before it gets to our users. At IBM, we try to make sure that we are one step ahead of our users, which is kind of the reason why we created the Slack channel to engage some of our users, because we all know that users can sometimes just go ahead and do whatever they want to do. So we try to stop that at IBM, and by us creating the environment that we created, it allows them to work with us and not against us, basically.
And speaking of the size, 2 of us.
Yeah, it's 2 QA engineers for over 125 Macs at IBM, 125,000 Macs at IBM.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a bit more than 125. Yeah. How do you select the group of users you perform testing on for new deployments?
So those users, they choose themselves. They add themselves to the channel. Like I said in the presentation, you do not have to have a Mac to be a part of the channel. A lot of our users, they probably don't even use a Mac for work. Some of them probably do have BYOD devices, and they just want to explore. Just because a user has a PC, it does not mean that we are limiting them from completing their task on a Mac. If their task can be completed on a Mac, they have the option to do so at IBM.
Perfect, I love that choice. Do you use any macOS within a VM for testing?
Want to answer, Peter?
Yeah. It depends on the situation, but yeah, we are also doing not just bare metal testing, but also virtual machine testing. Yeah.
How many weeks are in your sprint?
2 weeks.
That's easy. Didn't even give me time to get that one off the screen. When it comes to user testing, are you doing an opt-in where a user can request to be testers, or are you manually picking power users to be your testers, quality versus quantity? So I know they opt in, but is there any?
As we mentioned, they are enrolling in the channel, and then they are being added to the testing group. And most of them are mostly geeks like us, so they are opting in for some early beta releases. So.
Yeah.
Do you ever turn anyone down for being in the? No, everyone's welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. We've got that one. How do you get or incentivize users to provide feedback? Getting feedback from internal testers and pilot users sometimes feels like squeezing blood from a stone.
Well, I'm going to answer this. I actually started at IBM in 2015 as an intern. A year before that, that was the beginning of the Mac program. Before, IBM used to be a PC house. So because of we made that switch over to Mac, a lot of our users, they engaged themselves. They already wanted a Mac before we introduced Macs to IBM. So because of that, we don't have to worry about that because our users, they just engulf themselves into the Mac community within IBM.
I thought you mentioned you had scripts to test features. What type of scripting do you use for testing GUI interfaces?
Mostly we are using the bash scripts.
Bash scripts, thanks. How can I get the keynote for this session? We'll probably come onto your contact details at the end, but there'll be a recording of this as well, right? So people can watch the replay. How did you resolve the self-service branding problem? We have the same problem.
So, so the hard part about that issue was that, yes, it can be replicated, but sometimes the issue isn't able to be replicated. But because we work directly with our customer success manager, we was able to fix that issue within the next update within Jamf Pro. It may be something that they may have to work with their customer success manager with, but at IBM, we do have a lot of custom configurations, so that's probably the reason too why we was able to fix that issue. But they may have to reach out to their customer success manager for a solution for that.
And as you said, like collecting that evidence as well to provide as much sort of.
Correct.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. How do you communicate the opt-in availability of your testing group? Is it just word of mouth or something else?
Like I said before, like our users, they tend to just add themselves. At IBM, IBM's a company that a lot of people, IBM's the type of company that you have to learn and do things on your own sometimes. And those are the type of users that we have. So like I said, we are an agile team, and agile practices is something that IBM makes all their employees embrace. So as being in an agile environment, that's something that our users take with them, and they just add themselves into like the Mac environment that we have at IBM. It's very we don't really have to like send out surveys like, hey, do you want to be a part of this? Our users just add themselves, and we just go from there.
Awesome. Just built into the culture, just like
that's just the culture that we created. So what I could say is that it's up to the engineers and IT support to create the culture for your company. If you don't have a strong IT support team and you don't have a strong engineering team, you cannot create that culture. So with that being said, the two has to work together. And that's the reason why we do have a Slack channel for our users, and which I didn't mention in the presentation, but we do have a Slack channel for IT support. So we work directly with them.
Awesome, thank you. How many apps are in your testing catalog?
Good question.
125, one per iPad?
Maybe more.
Mac?
Maybe even more.
Yeah.
What was your solution for the custom branding issues? Oh, we've had that one, sorry. I haven't marked it off. What do your quarterly feedback surveys look like at a high level?
We are getting very great NPS, and people are very satisfied. So I think we are really on the peak. Yeah. We can still improve, of course, but I think we are doing really great.
Yeah. And speaking about quarterly surveys, we just sent out a quarterly survey to IBMers, and we did pretty well as a program. Like Peter said, there's always ways to improve, but we are keeping our users happy, and I think it's because we have that engagement with them.
Awesome. Last question, if there's no more that come in before. Can you go into more detail on that test sheet displayed earlier? Not all the columns, not just the columns, but also what you choose to note.
So what we choose to note in our test cases is, say if something isn't working as expected, sometimes with applications, they may freeze. So that's the reason why it's very important to test applications. We did have issues in the past, actually with Adobe, where a user would open the application, they try to do something, and the app will freeze. In that case, we'll have to work with that app owner, and that app owner works with the vendor, and they will work to get the issue resolved. Once they get the issue resolved, they send us the PKG for that application, and then we can upload it to self-service, and it'll be available for all our users. But it's very important that we test before we send to production.
Awesome, thank you very much. There's no more questions. We managed to get through all of those, so thank you so much. So we'll wrap it slightly early. So thank you very much. A fantastic session. How do we get in touch with you if we want any questions afterwards? Will you be hanging around?
Yeah, we are hanging around, so feel free.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
That feeling when I'm all alone. So please don't make me wait, 'cause I don't want